Welcome to The Explainer. You know that feeling, right? You're staring at a problem, you're totally stuck, and then, bam! Out of absolutely nowhere, the solution just pops into your head. We call it an aha moment, a stroke of genius. But what if I told you it's not magic? What if it's actually a process, something we can measure, predict, and even get better at? Well, today, we're pulling back the curtain and diving into the real science behind our greatest ideas.
So our story kicks off with a problem you'd think would be simple: cleaning your floor. Back in the 1990s, the chemists at Procter & Gamble were completely stumped. They'd poured millions into creating a better floor cleaner, but every time they made the soap more powerful, it started damaging the floors. They had basically hit a wall. So they did something interesting. They outsourced the problem to a design firm, and its CEO, Harry West, he realized something huge. The problem wasn't the soap. The problem was the mop itself.
Okay, so it's easy to say we need a total replacement, but actually inventing it, that's a whole different ballgame. I mean, how do you break free from an idea as ancient and universal as the mop? How do you even begin to imagine a solution that no one has ever seen before? That is the big question, and we're going to unpack it.
To find the answer, the designers didn't head to some high-tech lab. Nope. They went into people's actual homes. They basically became anthropologists, spending months just watching people clean. They videotaped the whole tedious, frustrating process. And they saw it all. The dirty water splashing around, people spending more time cleaning the mop than cleaning the floor. They saw up close that the tool was the real enemy here.
And this timeline, it really shows you that innovation is anything but a straight line. So after all those months of watching, the team was still stuck. And then, one day, they're watching a woman clean up coffee grounds. After sweeping, she wets a paper towel to get the last little bits of dust. And that was it. That was the aha moment, a disposable cleaning surface. This led to a super simple prototype, literally a tissue on a stick. But P&G wasn't sold, and the first focus groups, they hated it. But the designers kept at it. They persisted, they built a real model people could actually try, and that's when the light bulb finally went on for everyone. The result? The Swiffer. A $500 million product born from just watching, a flash of insight, a ton of rejection, and pure old-fashioned grit.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's that creativity isn't just one thing. The Swiffer wasn't born in a single magical flash. You needed that slow, patient work of just observing, that sudden spark of the paper towel idea, and then the years of hard work to perfect it and convince everyone else. It's a whole collection of different ways of thinking.
Okay, so that paper towel moment, that's the epiphany. It feels like it comes out of the blue. But what was actually going on inside the designers' heads? Well, thanks to modern neuroscience, we can literally watch an aha moment as it happens in the brain.
Researchers Mark Beeman and John Cunios broke it all down. Stage 1, your brain's left hemisphere gets to work, searching for all the obvious, logical answers. When it comes up empty, you hit Stage 2, impasse. You're stuck, you're frustrated, but that feeling is crucial. It's a signal for your brain to switch things up, to activate the right hemisphere, which is a master at making these wild, remote connections. And that's when it happens. A sudden burst of high-frequency gamma waves, and boom, the solution just erupts into your consciousness.
And this is exactly why getting stuck is such a vital part of the creative process. Think of it this way. The left brain is like a search engine, looking for exact matches. The right brain? It's more like a poet, finding metaphors and connecting ideas that seem totally unrelated. And you can't get to the poet's brilliant, unexpected answer until you've let the search engine do its thing and fail. That feeling of being completely stumped, that's the trigger for the breakthrough.
But here's the thing. That sudden flash of insight, it's only half the story. Just like we saw with the Swiffer, sometimes the answer doesn't come in a flash at all. Sometimes it has to be dug out, slowly, through a totally different, but just as powerful, kind of creativity.
Let's break it down into two modes. You've got relaxed insight. This is your shower thought, your breakthrough on a long walk. It happens when your brain is producing alpha waves, letting that right hemisphere make those crazy connections. It's what the cellist Yo-Yo Ma's talking about when he says, perfection gets in the way of real communication. But then there's the other mode, focused grit. This is driven by your prefrontal cortex, powered by a dopamine hit that helps you zero in. This is the art is work mindset of the legendary designer Milton Glaser.
And there is no better example of grit than this right here. Glazer's first design for the famous I Love New York campaign was already approved. He was done. He could have just moved on. But it just didn't sit right with him. He was obsessed. He couldn't stop thinking about it. Then, one day, sitting in the back of a taxi, it hit him. The typewriter font, the big, bold red heart. That wasn't some relaxed epiphany. That was the direct result of just relentlessly focusing on the problem until it cracked.
So we've got insight and we've got grit. But our creativity isn't just about what's happening inside our skulls. It's also shaped in a huge way by our experiences and sometimes by our lack of experience. This is where outsiders have a kind of secret superpower.
You see, experts often fall into this cognitive trap called functional fixedness. A chemist at P&G sees a problem and thinks only about, well, chemicals. A toy executive in the 50s sees a doll and thinks it has to look like a baby. They're stuck. But outsiders? They don't have that baggage. They don't know the rules, which means they aren't afraid to break them.
And history is just filled with these stories. You've got a computer programmer, Don Lee, who uses a chemistry technique to fat wash bourbon with bacon, completely changing mixology. You've got the website Innocentive, where a major company posted a chemistry problem their own PhDs couldn't solve, and a physicist with a totally fresh perspective cracked it. And of course, Ruth Handler, a mom, who saw a German gag gift doll and imagined Barbie at a time when every toy expert insisted that little girls only wanted to play with baby dolls.
What this all comes down to is that sometimes expertise can be a cage. An outsider's greatest weapon is their ignorance. They don't know what's supposedly impossible, so they just go ahead and do it.
All right, let's zoom out one last time. We've talked about the brain and the individual. Now let's talk about the group. How can we actually design our teams, our companies, even our cities to make these creative sparks fly?
So the most famous method for group creativity is probably brainstorming. It was invented by an ad executive named Alex Osborne, and his #1 rule was simple: absolutely no criticism. The idea was to create this totally safe space where every idea gets praised, because negativity, he thought, would kill creativity. It sounds amazing, right? There's just one tiny problem.
It doesn't really work. Psychologist Charlene Nemeth put it to the test. She set up 3 groups, one with basic instructions, one that followed the classic no criticism brainstorming rule, and a third group that was explicitly told to debate and criticize each other's ideas. The results were shocking. The debate group didn't just do a little better. They came up with almost 25% more ideas than the brainstormers. It turns out constructive conflict and debate actually stimulate ideas. They don't shut them down.
And you can see this in action at Pixar, which is arguably one of the most creative companies on the planet. Their daily review meetings are famous for being brutally critical. But the goal isn't to be mean. It's to find the problems in the work as quickly as possible so they can fix them. They've built an entire culture around the idea that you have to fail fast so you can get better together.
And this idea of openness scales way up. Back in the 70s, the tech world was centered around Route 128 in Boston. It was dominated by these big, self-sufficient companies where everything was super secretive. Meanwhile, out in California, Silicon Valley was a totally different scene. It was a fluid network of smaller companies where engineers were always sharing ideas, grabbing coffee, and hopping between jobs. That open, horizontal flow of information is what allowed Silicon Valley to explode, while Route 128's culture of secrecy caused it to stagnate.
This idea of engineering interaction can be literally built into the walls of a building. When Steve Jobs was designing Pixar's main campus, he had one central goal. He wanted to force accidental conversations between people who would normally never interact, like animators, programmers, and marketing folks.
And his big solution was radical and kind of hilarious. He insisted on having only one central set of bathrooms for the entire massive building. His logic was that everybody from the top executives to the newest animator would have to walk through the main atrium multiple times a day. He was engineering the exact kind of random cross-department collisions where brand new ideas are born. So when you put all these pieces together, you start to see creativity in a totally new light. It's not some magic quality you're either born with or you're not. It's not a noun. Creativity is a verb. It's the act of relaxing to find an insight. It's the act of having the grit to refine an idea for years. It's having the courage to think like an outsider, and it's building environments that spark debate and random collisions. These are all skills we can learn and processes we can use. So it's clear creativity isn't just one thing. It's more like a toolkit with a bunch of different mental modes you can switch between. So the question I want to leave you with is this. When you're looking at your next big challenge, which tool do you really need to pull out? Do you need to step back and relax to find that insight? Do you need to lean in with focused grit? Or maybe you need to go find an outsider, start a debate, and listen for the idea you never could have seen coming. Which mode of thinking do you need to unlock next?